Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is the TCMMA podcast with your host, Chris Cross.
Whoa!
Dana White privilege.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby!
Dana White privilege. Privilege.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the TCMMA podcast. It's your boy Chris Cross, and we are now in week 4 of Dana White's Contender Series, and we got all those predictions coming to you on the show today, fight by fight predictions. So stay tuned for that. But listen, there's some UFC news that we gotta tend to first. Several stories going on. Let's just go right down the list. Number 1, Tom Aspinall told Jon Jones has chink in his armor by UFC legend who trained with him. And the UFC legend is Frank Mir. You know, saying more or less he's got a chink in his armor, right? There's an avenue to victory there. And it's amazing that the whole world knows Tom Aspinall should be fighting for the heavyweight title, but it could be Stipe. And this is a problem for Dana White and company. What do you do here? You know? And I think honestly what you do is you say, hey, Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones are going to fight for the title, and Stipe can get the winner. And I know that stinks because he's got to wait. But let him take one other fight. Let's see, you know, Tom Aspinall's proven that he's winning other fights against Pavlovich and Curtis Blades. Let Stipe win a fight. Give him a lower ranked contender, it's fine. Prove he can win, and then fight for the title. That's how I think it should play out. But just a lot of pressure on the UFC right now because the whole world knows that Jon Jones should have fought Ngannou. That didn't happen, so that's kind of a blemish. Now you're supposed to fight Tom Aspinall, and he's not doing it. That's a blemish. What if they never fight? What if Jon Jones beats Stipe and they both retire? You see what I mean? So it's just, this is a problem, and the UFC's got to do something about it, but we'll see. I don't think they will, but they need to. Ilia Topuria warns Alexander Volkanovski against accepting backup role at UFC 308. He wants to get KO'd every year, says Topuria. Topuria's fight Max Holloway, and I don't see any, you know, I mean, we never foresee a reason a guy can't go. But if all of a sudden Holloway can't go, Volk steps in, and Volk's beat Holloway, so it makes sense. Even if Topuria goes in there and beats him again, it makes sense that he gets the backup role, at least right now. And the UFC's smart with providing these backup roles because we've seen things happen. I mean, we've seen things happen. But I think Volk will be ready if he has to step in. That's for sure. He's going to be prepared as if he's fighting. Conor McGregor gives major UFC contract update as Dana White teases imminent fight announcement amid December rumors. And there's a lot of the contract dispute going on that hasn't really been discussed too much, at least by us, but we know McGregor's got 2 fights left, so all of a sudden, he fights his next fight, and then he's down to 1 fight, and the UFC on some level isn't concerned if McGregor has to wait. It's a negotiating tactic. I mean, McGregor's running out of time. Every day is important right now. He's getting up there in age. But if he doesn't want to sign a contract past 2 fights, then what are we doing here? What does it really matter? And that's where the fans are going to start to turn a little bit, and a lot of them already have, against McGregor. Are you just trying to fight 2 fights against whoever, or are we trying to win a title again? Like, what's the point here? So both sides feeling a little pressure, but mainly McGregor in this situation. To me, unless, McGregor just doesn't want to fight in the UFC anymore, then there's no pressure other than just getting to fight. So time will be a little bit of pressure if that's the case. In other news, Shavkat Rakhmonov claims UFC offered title shot, but Bilal Muhammad declined due to timing issues. And that's because Shavkat wants to fight immediately. And when you're the champ, you're going to make sure you're 100% every time. So Shavkat's saying, I don't know what's going on with Bilal, and he's going to be ready at the moment. And, if he's going to be ready, he explained. They say December, January, I'm going to be ready. If they say April, May, it doesn't matter. I already deserve to fight for the belt. I already secured the spot, and I'll just make sure I'm going to be ready for the fight. So whenever he's ready, I'm in. And that's a problem for Bilal. I think that's going to be a great fight. But I'll tell you what, Bilal opened my eyes in that fight against Leon. I mean, he really opened my eyes. I can't believe he just dominated Leon Edwards like that, especially with control. Amazing. Jake Paul warned by DC Daniel Cormier, Mike Tyson fight could be biggest backfire in sports history. So Daniel Cormier a little concerned for Jake Paul, right? If Mike Tyson goes in there and gets the KO, that would be the biggest backfire, right? You're bringing in Mike Tyson because you want some type of name, keep legitimizing yourself if you're not already legitimate, and then all of a sudden you lose to him after beating all these other guys, and you're kind of not climbing the ladder, but you're getting a little more respect every time you fight, every time. Then you fight a real boxer and you lose, close fight, then you're back to winning. So it's like there's not much to gain here for Jake Paul, because if you beat him, everyone's going to say he's washed up, he's old. Right now, no one's saying that. Everyone's saying Mike Tyson's going to win. I mean, everybody. Not me. It's not impossible, but I like Jake Paul to outlast Mike Tyson. 2-minute rounds, though. There's a lot that favors Tyson in this fight. He's good for 3, 4, 5 rounds, and it's only like 8 2-minute rounds. So, Jake Paul's got to be really careful here. And if he gets KO'd by Tyson, that will just be wild. And people would absolutely love it. I hate to say it, but they would absolutely love to see Jake Paul get finished by Mike Tyson. They'd just be going crazy. But I still think Jake Paul outlasts him. No doubt about it. Now the Contender Series is here. So let's dive right in. We're going to start with Fight 5, first fight of the night. Best division in the UFC, right? The lightweight division. Gage Young versus Quilan Seokhyeon. Let's get into that right now. In the lightweight division at Dana White's Contender weight division is always exciting. You get Gage Young taking on Quilan Seokhyeon. If I said that right? These are some new names we're seeing for the first time. So let's get into it. Young 8-1, Seokhyeon 6-1. He's 6 feet tall. He's 3 inches taller than Young. Both guys 24 years old. Now, beginning with Young, fighting from Kansas City, Missouri, of course, American. He's got 5 KOs, 1 submission, and 2 decisions in 8 fights. He did lose once by submission. Who was that against? Bobby Lee. All right. He's fighting out of Fighting Alliance Championships. That's where he's been fighting. He's won 3 in a row, all by TKO, so a lot of momentum coming in. Seokhyeon, 2 KOs, 3 submissions, 1 decision. Lost once by submission as well. So both guys have been submitted, but that was back in his very first fight in Eternal MMA. Since then, he's won 6 in a row, so he's clearly getting better. And this is very interesting. So he fought once this year and 3 times in 2023. Gage Young fought once this year and twice in 2023, so no angle there. All right, so I expect this to be a very close fight. But I'm going to lean with Young just because he has more wins, more experience. He did lose once recently in 2023, so that's a problem. But it was his first loss. So I think Gage Young is getting better and better. So is Seokhyeon, but this is a level up. So I'm going to take Gage Young to sneak out a victory. I think this is going to a decision. Lightweight division, you're going to see, some power. You're going to see some takedowns, takedown defense. Everything is on display, and the winner should get in. So I'm going with Gage Young in this one by decision. Significant strikes and control time to move to 9-1 lightweight division. Dana White's Contender Series. Yeah, so you got the lightweight division, which is already very tough to predict, and then you got the Contender Series, which is very tough to predict because these guys aren't in the UFC yet. It's hard to gauge their competition level up to this point, and both guys desperately want to win to get in. So there's a lot of factors here that make these fights very difficult to predict, but we'll take Young in the opening fight. And I think we've had 3 weeks in a row of winning records, from what I can remember. All right, so as we jump into fight 4, just climbing the ladder, right? There's 5 fights each week. As we get into fight 4, you got women's flyweight division. Finally, the women are fighting. We have no women have gotten into the UFC or gotten contracts into the UFC just yet. And when we come back after this fight, we'll look at who's in already. You got 12 fighters, 4 over the past 3 weeks, making it 12 total in. But you got Unessi Duben 5-0 versus Shannon Clark 5-0. I like it. Let's get to the women's flyweight division at Dana White's Contender Series. Finally, you get Unessi Duben taking on Shannon Clark. I say finally because we haven't had a women's fight yet. So let's get into it. Both fighters are 5-0. I like it. Shannon Clark, 2 inches taller, 5'6". She's 32. That's about all we know. Now, Duben, Venezuelan. Interesting. Don't remember the last time we saw a Venezuelan, especially at the Contender Series. Now, she's got 4 KOs, 1 submission in her 5 wins. So that's impressive. She's fighting out of FFC. In her last fight, she's kind of been all over, fighting for 300 Sparta at 31, 32, 34. So she's been involved in that. But these aren't big-time promotions. Now, MMA Barbie, a.k.a. Shannon Clark, Canadian. 5 wins, 3 KOs, 1 submission, 1 decision. So who was the decision against? No one we've heard of. Nejra Rep. But she's fighting out of LFA the last 2 times. So a decision isn't a bad thing. Then she had a submission in the next fight to get her to this point. So this one's easy to me. You know, it's really hard to tell. You got Venezuela versus Canada. Fighting in 2 different type of promotions, but Shannon Clark is fighting in the better promotion and she's winning. Doesn't necessarily mean she's going to win the fight, but in my opinion, that's the best option. I think Shannon Clark has the best competition. She's ready for this fight, and when the lights go on, she'll be ready to go. That's how I feel. She's likely going to win this fight on experience. So look for Shannon Clark to win and move to 6-0. A finish would be great. I think even a decision and a great fight she gets in, because the UFC needs to add some women from the Contender Series. None have of the 12 contracts given so far, it's all been men. So the women need a Contender Series contract. They'll get it here in the women's flyweight division. Dana White's Contender Series. Yeah, so, I mean, regardless of who wins this fight, excuse me, we believe they're getting in just because of sheer numbers. And that's why we're tracking it this year. That's why we're looking at what divisions are in, what divisions are out. Starting from the bottom, you got Loner Kavanaugh, just the only flyweight. You got 3 bantamweights, right? So the next few bantamweight fights got to be finishes. Cody Haddon, Cortavius Romeus, Malcolm Wellmaker. Look at those records. Featherweight, Jose Delgado, 8-1. Bogdan Grad, 14-2. And then there's some big boys too. Andreas Gustafsson, 11-2 welterweight. Middleweight's deep now. Mansur Abdul Malik, 8-0. Marco Tulio, 12-1. Andre Puliev, 9-2. Light heavyweight, Bruno Lopez, 13-1. Heavyweight, Rizvan Kuniev, 12-2. And that's what it looks like right now. So you're deep in the men's divisions so far at the Contender Series. So we need some women. And the winner of this one, obviously, is likely going to get in. So look for Shannon Clark to get the job done. Now, as we march into fight number 3, got Austin Bashi, USA, taking on fellow American Tommy McMillan, 12-0 versus 6-0. Oh my goodness. The fights don't get easier to predict. Let's get into it right now. In the featherweight division at Dana White's Contender Series, you got Austin Bashi taking on Tommy McMillan. It's going to be an interesting fight. Both guys combined 18-0. Bashi 12-0, McMillan 6-0. Way big difference in height in this one. McMillan 5'11", Bashi 5'3". McMillan's 26, Bashi 22. So guy's 22, he's 12-0. It's incredible. He's got 3 wins by KO, 4 by submission, 2 by decision, so he's winning every which way. So the American's looking good so far, fighting out of lights out championships, 16, 13, 12, 11. He's been there for a while, also fighting in extreme fighting championships, so the guy is well rounded and has some decent competition. Now McMillan, fighting at a Fusion Fight League since the beginning, again is 6-0. Guy got 3 KOs, 3 submissions. So this could be the fight of the night. American versus American. I'm going to lean towards Bashi, even though he's the younger guy. McMillan approaching that prime or peak performance, but Bashi has 12 fights, a lot more experience. So I have no choice here but to go with Bashi just because of limited knowledge and, similar competition. So I look for Bashi to win this thing, to move to 13-0 here, featherweight division, Dana White's Contender Series. Yeah, and that's a tough one where you're getting into 2 guys that are, combined 18-0. Pick a name and, take a chance. But I'll take the 12-0 over 6-0 and the level of competition, experience, double the fights. That's got to mean something. I mean, it's got to mean something. At least I hope anyway. But sometimes we find angles and we're successful, and sometimes we blow it. It can't be right every time. But yeah, we'll take Bashi in that one. Now, as we get into the co-main event, you got Will Curry, middleweight division, 12-3. Jordan Santos, 9-1. England versus Brazil in this one. Check it out. In the middleweight division at Dana White's Contender Series, this is your co-main event. You got Will Curry taking on Jordan Santos. This is going to be England versus Brazil. Now, Will Curry's a tall guy. He's 12-3. Santos 9-1. But Curry is 6'3" compared to the 6-foot Santos. He's 25, still young in the game, but 15 fights in. Santos is 27. Now, Will Curry, a.k.a. Drago, in his 12 wins, 4 KOs, 6 submissions, 2 decisions. I like that he's well-rounded. He did lose twice by decision and was KO'd once. Now, 2 of those losses were against Christian Leroy Duncan, a UFC fighter, CLD. Right, he was TKO'd the first time, came back a few months later in a rematch, and lost by decision. So did a little bit better, and he's fighting out of Cage Warriors. Another loss against Mick Stanton in 2023. He's won 3 in a row since then. So this guy has definitely faced some decent competition. Now Santos, in his 9 wins, 3 KOs, 4 submissions, 2 decisions. He's well-rounded as well. Lost 1 by decision to Christian Torres at Titan FC. He's fighting in other places over the last 2, like Thunder Fight, where he won a split decision and a unanimous decision. And, this is tough, but I'm looking at Will Curry's 12-3 record, and I'm saying it could very easily be 12-1, right? Christian Leroy Duncan is a very tough fight, and a fight that he probably should lose, right? Unless he's just on a different level. So I think Will Curry has some good competition. The Brazilian makes me nervous. Curry did lose 3 or 4 fights ago, but I still like Will Curry to pull this thing out. I think Drago is the guy here that's going to win. He's got to defend takedowns. And if it does go to the ground and he's on the bottom, he's in trouble. So he's got to defend takedowns, keep the fight standing, where he does have some KO power. But it's going to be a back and forth fight. I look for a good one here in a very impressive middleweight division that we've seen so far in this season of the Contender Series. So look for a big one here. Someone's got to get the finish to get in. We already got several middleweight fighters that have been signed. So keep that in mind. But Will Curry wins, in my opinion, with the 13-3 middleweight division. Dana White's Contender Series. Yeah, so Will Curry's a guy in this one, and the fact that he fought CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan, not once but twice, gives you a major advantage because you're facing a UFC level fighter. Even though you lost back-to-back times, you went many rounds with him. So that experience has to pay off in this one. That's how I feel. I mean, it absolutely has to pay off. Now, as we work our way into the main event, got an interesting one here. Seokhyeon Ko from Korea. Wow, 10-2. Taking on the undefeated Brazilian. Oh my goodness. Igor Calvalcanti. I like this. He's 9-0. Look out. Let's get into that one right now. In the welterweight division, your main event at Dana White's Contender Series, you got Seokhyeon Ko taking on Igor Calvalcanti. So let's get into it. It's going to be an interesting main event. I like the setup. Ko 10-2, Calvalcanti 9-0. Perfect. You got Korea versus Brazil In this one, Calvalcanti 1 inch taller at 5'11". He's 26. Ko is 28. And now let's dig in a little bit deeper on each fighter. So Ko, aka Incredible, in his 10 wins, 6 KOs, 3 decisions, 2 losses though by KO. That's concerning. Now Igor, on the other hand, in his 9 wins, he's got 7 KOs, 2 submissions, and he's never lost, right? So he's showing that he's well-rounded. I like what I see. Now, you know, he is fighting in smaller promotions like In-Fight MMA, IFL, where he's fought a few times, which is Inside Fighters League. So keep that in mind. You know, he's a good fighter, but he's fighting guys that he should beat if he's going to be at the Contender Series. And if he was fighting in a tougher promotion, who knows, right? So Ko has some tougher fights that'll pay off a little bit in this fight, but I just still think Calvalcanti's better. You know, number one, he's from Brazil, so you know he's going to have a ground game. And when you add the KO power to that, this is going to be a problem for Ko in this one. I think Calvalcanti's a super prospect. I'm looking forward to him getting this victory to move to 10-0, likely on the feet. But if it's close on the feet, he can easily take the fight to the ground, where to me is where Ko will struggle. So we'll see how this goes down. Look for the ground game to take over midway through round 1 if he can't get the early KO. Calvalcanti wins either way to move to 10-0, welterweight division. Dana White's Contender Series. Yeah, Ko gets KO'd, so I'm going with Calvalcanti. And if he wasn't undefeated at 9-0, I won him. Usually when a guy's fighting out of a smaller promotion, that's a question mark. But where he's undefeated, it's not as big of a question mark because he's, you know, can only beat guys that are put in front of you, right? That's it. You can only beat the fighters that are put in front of you. So now you're on the big stage, and you got to overcome, and I think you will. But listen, that's going to do it for today's show. Those are the picks. The picks are in. Just a couple days away. For now, it's your boy Chris Cross. Hope you have a great day, and God bless. As always, peace.